Welcome to 5-Minute BTech channel. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the real magic that makes virtual reality, well, work. We're talking about the absolute most basic building blocks of every single thing you do in VR, transformations. Have you ever just stopped and wondered how a virtual world knows exactly where you're looking? Or how your virtual hand just perfectly copies every little twitch of your controller? It feels like magic, right? But it's actually a really clever system of rules. And that's exactly the question we're going to dig into today. Okay, so here's the game plan. We'll start by figuring out what these transformations actually are. Then we'll break them down into the 3 main movements. After that, we'll cover the one super important rule you just can't break. Then we'll see it all in action, and finally, we'll see why this is the true foundation of pretty much all of VR. So, let's get right to it. What are we even talking about when we say transformations? Well, think of it like this. It's the language that translates what you do in the real world into the virtual world. So, a transformation is just the process of taking any object in VR and either moving it, rotating it, or changing its size. That's it. Every single time you pick something up, look around, or stretch a model in a design app, you're using transformations. The whole VR experience is literally built on this idea.
Now, this whole concept really boils down to 3 fundamental actions. You can almost think of them as the primary colors of virtual movement. We've got translation, scaling, and rotation. Let's check out each one.
First up is translation, and honestly, this is the simplest of the 3. It's just about changing an object's position, moving it from point A over to point B. The key thing here is that its size and the direction it's facing stay exactly the same. It just shifts. And you see this everywhere in VR. When you move your controller and your virtual hand moves right along with it, that's translation. When you pick up a block and set it down on a table, translation again. Even when you physically walk around your room and your whole avatar moves in the game, that's your real body's movement being translated into the virtual space.
All right, next up we have scaling. This one's pretty intuitive. It's all about changing how big or small an object is. You can just think of it as squishing or stretching something to a different size. And scaling is huge for all the creative apps out there. Think about something like Gravity Sketch, where you can just grab a model and blow it up to be massive. Or those games that have a giant mode where you can look down on the whole world. Or a miniature mode where everything looks like a tiny model. That's all just scaling transformations at work.
And finally, our third core movement, rotation. Now, this isn't about where an object is, it's about which way it's facing. It's all about changing its orientation by turning it around one of its axes, the X, Y, or Z axis in that 3D space. Rotation is, and I mean this, absolutely critical for immersion. When you turn your head and your view in VR moves perfectly with you, that's your headset's rotation being tracked. When you twist your wrist to aim a laser pointer or a weapon, that's controller rotation. It's what makes everything feel so precise and, natural.
Okay, so we have our 3 building blocks: translation, scaling, and rotation. But here's the thing. You can't just slap them on in any random order. There is one crucial rule that developers have to follow, and it makes all the difference between an awesome experience and, well, a really nauseating one. The most important thing to get here is that the order you do these in changes everything. Let's take your virtual hand, for example. To make it feel natural, the system has to apply the rotation first, the twist of your wrist, and then apply the translation to move it where it needs to go. If you did that backwards, if you translated it first, your hand wouldn't pivot around your wrist. Instead, it would feel like it's orbiting some weird faraway point in space. It's just bizarre.
And this is why the order is such a big deal. The moment you get it wrong, the illusion is shattered. Your brain sees something happening that just defies the laws of physics. And that disconnect between what you're seeing and what your body's expecting is one of the biggest causes of motion sickness in VR. It just feels wrong.
So let's see how this all comes together. Now we can actually deconstruct some really common VR actions and see the specific transformations that make them happen.
Just think about it for a second. When you reach out and grab a cube, your hand's position and orientation are being tracked. That's translation and rotation working together. When you swing a sword, that whole arc is mostly driven by the rotation of your controller. Throwing a ball? That's just applying a continuous translation to it after you let go. And even a simple menu that always stays in front of you, that's just rotating to always face wherever your head is looking. So as we start to wrap this up, I really want to drive this point home. This stuff isn't just some minor technical detail. It's the very grammar, the language of virtual reality. This really is the core idea.
Every single interaction you can think of, from a tiny little head nod to some complex hand gesture, is all made possible because of these rules. Transformations are the engine that literally converts your physical reality into a virtual one.
And that leaves us with a pretty fascinating thought, doesn't it? These simple rules, move, rotate, scale, and do it in the right order, are the basic grammar you need to build an entire virtual world. So, now that you understand that grammar, what kind of sentences, what kind of stories, what kind of experiences could you build? If you like the video, hit like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll meet you in the next video.